It is portal season. How many quarterbacks did the Badgers need to bring in this offseason? My answer is all of them, but let's get a number on it. Let's go.
You are Locked On Badgers, your daily podcast on the Wisconsin Badgers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Most definitely hit the wrong button there. Welcome to Locked On Badgers, your team every single day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Thank you for being part of this. Thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. Honestly, appreciate every single one of you. I don't say that enough, or I hope I say it enough, but it's Late Night Badgers. We're going to have people in here. We're going to have people reacting to it. It's an amazing community. Thank you for being a part of it. Today's episode, we are talking portal losses. The Badgers already have a couple casualties in the portal wars. New commit for Wisconsin at a position they absolutely needed. We're going to talk about his film a little bit, what he brings to the Badgers. Portal needs, starting with how many quarterbacks do the Badgers need in this cycle. We're going to go position by position, going through some of these some of these spots. Given what's on the roster right now, obviously some of these things will change in the portal wars, but going with what we have now, how many spots at a minimum do I think they need to add at each spot? Let's start at quarterback. What do you have coming back right now? You have Carter Smith, freshman. You have Ryan Hopkins coming in, true freshman. Daniel O'Neal, I wouldn't even put that. I would, given the big injury towards the end of the year, I think you write that one in with pencil. And then that's it, guys. That's your quarterback room. So how many at a minimum do you need at quarterback? I think it's two. I think it's two minimum. And honestly, I think you got to look at three, considering what Carter Smith might do, considering the state of Daniel O'Neal. I think you need two minimum. You need one tier A guy, and then you need another. You need a backup. You brought in three last year. You went through all of them, plus a freshman. So going into next year, if you bring in two portal quarterbacks, one is the nominal starter. I think you bring in another guy who is maybe a lower level veteran quarterback that can compete with Carter Smith. There's your top three. Ryan Hopkins is your four. And then go at a walk-on arm. Go at a Hunter Simmons-ish veteran quarterback from an FCS level that might just like to come and chill at Madison for a year of football. There's five quarterbacks for you. So I think you need two minimum. Keith says you might need five based on injury history. Ain't no doubt, Keith. Brian Shetty, he's a good dude. He said two or three. That's the thing. I think two's the minimum. I think three might be what you need to look at. But I think that third guy, for me, he's a FCS older quarterback who just wants to go experience big-time football. Being a big-time football environment is a camp arm. Because here's the other thing. You need multiple arms to throw to receivers in camp. You have a bunch of practices going on, oftentimes at both sides of the field. You got to have a couple quarterbacks just to throw the ball in camp so you can run practice efficiently with the ones, the twos, the threes, the scout team. All that matters. So, yeah, give me two, at least one. The Grogan says, first of all, Ryan, you on the Big Ten squad was stupid great. Yeah, there's a lot of Ryan stories that nobody really knows. There's a whole different side to Ryan. Let's go running back. So we did quarterbacks, I think minimum two. Running backs, let's look at who's coming back. You have Gideon Atuka. And again, I would write Gideon Atuka with a pencil just because that was a really scary injury. He didn't return at all. Literally the rest of that year or the rest of this year. We don't know. I don't know anything. I'm not saying anything, but I don't know. You have Dylan Jones, who's coming off an injury. Darren Dupree, who's banged up this year. I think Cade Yakimelli's gone. Obviously, you're bringing in Wiggins in this freshman class, but I think you need two at the running back spot too. I think you need a minimum of two. And actually, if I'm looking at my tracker, I wrote down three. So off to the side, I kind of have the list of what I think they need to get. I think they need three running backs. Now, some of this is dependent on what does Dylan do? What does Darian do? But you're looking at a running back room coming back that has no real locks in terms of health and production. Dylan Jones wasn't great this year. Now, some of that was offensive line, some of that was scheme, some of that was schedule. I think he's still a good back. I still really like the talent that Dylan Jones has. There's a lot inside of him. He's like a Pokemon that hasn't evolved yet. Pretty soon he's going to hit that next level, and we're going to be like, oh, that's the guy we wanted. But he wasn't super productive this year. And again, I don't know the status of getting Atuka. You got to be careful there. I think Cade is gone. You're not going to count too much on a true freshman in Wiggins. Guys, you might need three running backs. We'll say two minimum. AB says you need six. That's a lot. Robert Sorensen, friend of the show, always brings the guns when he comes on with the cutoff T-shirt. Wait, Ryan was actually on the Big Ten squad. I've been on a lot of Big Ten squads, Robert. You've been missing out. I'm usually on the Big Ten squads. All right, let's go tight ends. Guys, how many tight ends do you think they need? So right now I got us down for 3 running backs and 2 quarterbacks. This is going to be a busy portal season for the Badgers. I actually, at tight end, am going 0. If you look at the depth chart, I like Nyzie Davis, and there was a comment in here about Nyzie Davis as well from Robert Sorensen. Nyzie Davis from last year's class is exciting at tight end, and then Robert knows ball. Emmett Bork looks like he was a caveman that discovered football. Like he's going to be really good for us. His coaching staff really likes him. Huge frame, physical, can catch the ball. I think that was a steal. I think Emmett Bork was a steal. But then you still have Tucker Ashcraft. You have Grant Steck. You have Jackson McGowan. You have Jake Severs coming in this class. Jack Severs, sorry. I always get Jack. I always call him Jake. But yeah, I think tight end's fine, guys. I really like the group of Steck, Ashcraft, Bork, McGowan, Severs. I'm good at tight end. You guys let me know if you think I'm wrong. I don't think they need a tight end in this class. Aaron says 2. Brian says 1. Other Brian says bring in an extra one. Maybe I'm wrong on that. AB says 1. I just don't think you need a tight end. So in a perfect world, yes. And I'll say it's for every single position. If you can find a guy that you think upgrades it, like sometimes some of this is opportunities, right? If you can find a guy at tight end, you're like, yeah, we really like him. We can get him. Get him. Don't pass up on a tight end that would upgrade that class. But I don't think they need to go out and get one. Resources are going to be tough. There's going to be a lot of people in the portal. You have to really load up at the positions you need. And I just don't think tight end is one of those positions you need. Again, if you can get a guy at a good price that you think makes sense, go get him. And maybe they'll do that. But I think tight end is in a good spot. Mr. October says 0. There are too many other big needs. Mike Witt says no tight end. And the Grogan says save dollars on tight end. Sorry, I saw Robert Sorensen's comment, the Jiha Wimmy Diddle. Again, that's kind of an inside thing. You got to be a long time on the show to understand that reference. But man, I love Rob. He's good people. Let's go receiver. How many receivers do you need? Let's look at the depth chart. This is a scary depth chart right now. So coming back next year, you have Joseph Griffin, who hasn't done really anything since he's come over from Boston College. He's a senior. Chris Brooks Jr., who I still really like. I like Chris Brooks Jr. a lot as a situational receiver. He's got good hands. He's a good blocker. He's physical. He's just not fast. He probably runs a 4.7. He's probably a 4.65 guy. But I like him in the rotation. And then you have Tretch. You have Hilton. Kyan Johnson has announced he's leaving for the portal. That's all. That's all you have, guys. There are some walk-ons, and I don't want to discount that. But you basically have Tretch, Hilton, Brooks, Griffin, and then coming in this class, you have LeGray and Tabatu. Sorry, I'm mispronouncing his name. But you have 2 freshmen coming in. I like both the freshmen. But there's a chance Hilton leaves. I think Tretch is gone. Someone had this question up here. I don't know that for sure. I think Tretch is probably gone. And quite frankly, even if he stays, he hasn't been great for this team. So I think you need 3 receivers minimum. Torin Lowe says 4. I could definitely see 4. Mr. October said 0 slot, 3 outside. Brian says 2 X receivers, but an actual talent. AB says 4 to 5. The Grogan just says so many. Aaron says 3 to 4. 100%. I think 3 is the absolute minimum. I think you need 4, ideally. I think you need 4 receivers, and at least 2 of them have to be big frame, 6 foot, 6'1", 6'2" boundary receivers, and those are expensive. I'll give you some numbers I've heard on in general. This is in general what a really good boundary receiver is going to cost you in the portal: $700,000 plus, 6 to 700,000 plus. Mike asks, "What are you hearing about Hilton?" Ryan, what are you hearing about Hilton? I think the same thing everyone else kind of heard. There was smoke right after the last game of the season that there's a chance he could leave. I've heard Indiana. I don't think this offense did anybody any favors in terms of talent recruiting, Jaden Petit, or talent retention, Eugene Hilton. We'll see. Brian says 5 with a good blocking receiver. Badger fan BTM says, how much will the Michigan State receiver cost? Talking about Nick Marsh. That's $1 million plus. Again, these are rough numbers. You know, maybe if there was a perfect school for him and he had a connection with the quarterback and he loved the coaching staff and it's a place he wanted to play, maybe it's not that. It's going to be $1 million plus to get a Nick Marsh, though. unless you have all these random connections. That's what it's going to cost. It's really, really expensive. As Mike Witt says, go get him. I agree. But there's going to be a ton of schools after him, and a ton of schools after him that have had much better offenses, have had much better seasons, that are also going to offer $1 million plus, that might already have a quarterback in place. It's going to be tough. We'll take a pause there, come back. We got offensive line, defensive line, linebackers, edges. We got every other position on the team. How many portal guys do we need? And how many do we need total? This is going to add up pretty quickly, guys. We'll take a quick second for our friends of the show. A quick second, as always, say thank you for tuning into Locked On Badgers. Locked On Badgers After Dark tonight. Today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. Sundays move really fast. Life moves fast, guys. One big play, and suddenly everything feels different. We know that as Badger fans. Think back to all the big plays in our Badger fandom. You know, like the Michigan State Hail Mary, the good one, and then Duckworth on the Russell Wilson one. One big play can change everything. And that's what makes live betting with FanDuel so exciting. You're not just watching the game, you're reacting to it in real time. The lines shift. With FanDuel, you can place bets on the action as that action unfolds. Every drive, every momentum swing, every highlight moment. It's live betting at its best on the best sports and the best betting platform. If a receiver gets hot, if a defense tightens up, or if the momentum flips after a turnover, FanDuel lets you jump into that moment. The live spreads and the money lines adjust instantly. Player props go up or down as players heat up or cool off. You can bet next touchdown scores, whatever you want. So if you want to be right in the middle of the action, and who doesn't? Who doesn't want to be right in the middle of action this season? Visit FanDuel.com, place your live NFL bets all season long. FanDuel, the game moves fast, and so can you. All right, let's get into this offensive line. This one is really fascinating to me. How many offensive linemen do they need in the portal? And I'll pause there. Throw what you're thinking in the chat. Because if you look at this offensive line room, the last 2 years, what has been the best position they've recruited? It's been offensive line pretty consistently. They've added multiple high 3, 4-star type talents. You have a lot of young talent on this team. And at some point, you do need that young talent to mature and play. Otherwise, what are we doing? Otherwise, why are you recruiting 4 to 5 offensive linemen in 24 and 23? Or in 24 and 25, I mean. You have Hardy Watts, who's young, Colin Cubberly, Kevin Haywood, Ryan Corey, Michael Roski, Nolan Davenport, Cam Clark. You have Logan Powell, Emerson Mandel, right? There's a lot of young talent on this roster. And yet you look at the offensive line this year and you say, this was a disaster. This was the dam breaking and the village underneath it getting swamped in the deluge and nobody surviving. You can't do that again. You need a ton of offensive linemen. Well, if that's the case, then why do you have all these young guys on the roster that are going to be redshirt sophomores? It's interesting to me. Again, let's look at this. You have Leighton Nelson, Barrett Nelson. Not going to count on those guys. But then you have Emerson Mandel, Colin Cubberly, Kevin Haywood, Ryan Corey, Nolan Davenport, Logan Powell, Cam Clark, Michael Roski, Hardy Watts. And then you're bringing in Brady Beckenhuis as the freshman. I think you need 2 really good ones. And then if you can get a depth guy, that's where I want to be at. And the really good ones, if you can get a really good tackle and a really good center. Now, those are also the 2 most expensive and hardest places to get them. They're going to cost you a lot of money. I think if you have to pick or choose one, I want a center. I want an established center. Could Colin Cubberly be that guy? I think Cub could play center. And then that opens up maybe room for Emerson Mandel and maybe Joe Brunner if he's back to be your guards. Again, we don't know if Joe Brunner's coming back. That's another wild card in this. If he doesn't come back, then I think you need 3. If Brunner comes back, I think it's 2 because I want to find spots for my young guys to play. I think Colin Cubberly can play next year as a starter. I think Mandel can. I think Haywood can. I do think if you get one guy to center for me, and then if you get one guy and a depth guy, I think that's where I'm at. Badger fan says, I think the young kids are ready. Turin says 7. You need bodies. Listen, I don't hate it. You would have depth on the offense line. Offense line's expensive, though. Maxwell says 3 offensive linemen. AB says guard is fine. AB also says 2 to 3 offensive tackle and 1 center. I think you need, if you get 2, I go tackle center. And then you have Haywood at 1 tackle. You have your portal guy at the other tackle. And that allows you to move Mandel inside. And then you have a competition inside. And then you can compete with Emerson Mandel, Colin Cubberly, Ryan Corey, Logan Watts, or Hardy Watts, Logan Powell. I like that. And then I would still like to get another veteran guy for depth, a swing tackle, a swing guard. So I'm going to say 3 is my official number. I think that's where a lot of people in the chat are. Aaron Kennedy says 2 tackles, a guard and a center. So I think that's 4. AB says we either need a center or an assistant coach who can teach snapping. My guy, dude, I don't understand why you've been so bad at snapping the ball for years at Wisconsin now. Unless it's been Jake Renfro, and I don't want to kill Cubberly or Corey or some of those guys too much because they're young, but this is why I think they need to go get a center. Just find the best center, best 2 or 3 centers you can find, make competitive offers to all of them, and say you can come in and be the starting center. And I think if you get that center, you guys, I think it sets the line. It's the pivot in the line. It's the guy who makes the calls. It's the guy who handles the ball more than any player on the football field besides the quarterback. No, it's more than any player, right? Because you can do direct snaps to a running back. It's just so vitally important, and it's been so vitally disappointing the last 3 years for the Badgers. It's the crux of that offensive line, and it's been the weak spot. They got to get better at that. They got to get a center. So I think a center, a tackle, and a depth guy. I think I'm at 3. Let's see if anyone else is in here. Yeah, AB, your average high school center can snap better. I have no idea either. Evil Badger, are they going to spend or is it just lip service? I don't think it's lip service. I've said this consistently. I've heard a lot of we're more in alignment now. We're going to spend more now. But it's still, we need to see it, right? I'm right there with everybody else on this. I think they are going to spend more, but we need to see it. And then people need to realize because we're spending money now doesn't mean we're going to be the Dodgers or the Yankees. We're not going to be the Lakers, right? We're going to be in the tier that we need to be in competitively, given where kind of Wisconsin is. But it's not going to be Ohio State, Oregon. It's not going to be USC. But it is going to be better than than it has been. Which is again where I go back to a spot like tight end. I don't think that's a spot where you need to spend a ton of resources because you still have to be smart with your resources. Okay, let's go. I think I killed offensive line there for a while. Let's go defensive line. This is actually a spot I feel like we're pretty good at. And when I say defensive line, I'm not talking edges. So I'm not talking like a Reiger type or a Yaya Gad type. I'm talking Perkins. We're talking Ben Barton last year. So coming back on this team, how many defensive linemen do we need, guys? We got Perk, Jamal Howard, Dylan Johnson, who's already a junior, which is crazy to me. Uponu, who was a freshman last year, Torrin Petaway, and then you're bringing in 2, right? You're bringing in Diju Ba this year and Arthur Scott. That's already a pretty decent interior rotation. Now, they're going to miss a Ben Barton, who was super disruptive and physical this year, but I think Perkins can kind of grow into that role. Maybe Jamel Howard can take a step and grow into that role. I think they need 1. I wrote down 1. And again, this is my minimum. If you get 2, great. Love it. But if we're talking defense line, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 coming back. And then you have 2 freshmen who could or could not play, but Dylan Johnson played right away. I think you need 1 minimum. Ideally, I think you get 2. Yeah, AB says 2 to 3. Brian says need 2 or 3 to back up. Grogan says 1. I think 2 is great. I think at a minimum you need 1 because I think these guys, you have enough for a 2 deep right here. I think Perk could take a step. Dylan Johnson is going to be a true junior. I think he could take a step. I'm going to say 1 defensive line. Turin says 1 to 2, but you can be picky at this position. Big Rob Sorensen says 3. You need a good rotation, 2 situational guys. I'm never going to turn down a defensive lineman. I'll say that. But I think at a minimum, you need 1. I can easily be convinced that at a minimum, you need 2. I think if you can get 3, you're getting into the premium. You don't need 3, but you're great to have it. Let's go edge. So here's your edges. This is another spot that's really interesting. Listen to these guys. You have Garner coming back, Fearbry, Sebastian Cheeks, who was really good this year, Ernest Willer, 2 years ago, 4-star player. You have Nicholas Clayton, who was one of the best prospects in last year's class. Jalen Williams, who was another one of the best prospects in last year's class. You have Samuel Leteju, who I think is going to be a stud. And then you're bringing in Yaya Gad this cycle. So you got a solid 6 or 7 edge guys, and 2 or 3 of them are pretty high upside players. Now they got to prove it, and you do have to replace a Mason Reiger, which is a big deal. Reiger was phenomenal this season. I would argue, and I'm curious if anybody would have an argument for me or against this. I think he was the best player on the football team this year. I think Mason Reiger was the best player on this football team, period. So you got to replace that. That being said, I think you just need 1, and I think you can be picky here. If you can find a really good player, you go get him. If it's like a Mason Reiger, you go get him. If not, I think you have Clayton, Williams, you have Leteju, you have Cheeks, Fearbry, Garner. I think you're okay here. So I would get 1, but he's got to be a good one. Yeah, Slim, you crushed it right here. 1 on Reiger's level or better. If you can go get an impact player on the edge, you always do that. but I don't think you need to just add bodies here. I think they're okay here. I like this from AB, actually. Move Allegro outside. Move Allegro to this spot. I actually think that's what they could do because you're not going to take Cooper post off the field. All right, let's go inside linebacker. We got coming back Allegro. Now, again, I kind of like the idea of moving Allegro, so I'm down with that. Then you just signed Schaefer, the community college kid. He's got a couple years left. You have Heiberger, Gauthier, Posa, Coop, and you're bringing in Wenzel. So Posa and Coop are going to eat up the majority of those reps. I do think Tackett Curtis moves on, but if not, he's here as well. Landon Gauthier could be a good player. I think Thomas Heiberger's in this mix. You already added a player with a couple years of experience at Schaefer. I don't think you need any. Tommy Turbo, yes, sir. I don't think you need any inside linebacker. I think you have 2 young stars, and then you have multiple guys that can fill in behind them, and you've already added one. So I think you're good here. Brian says 1 or 2 backups. Again, I would take that, but bare minimum, I think you're good here. Just my opinion. Doesn't make it the right one, just mine. Let's go corners. How many corners do you guys think we need? What is the bare minimum? And this is what we got coming back right now. Gamir Latimer, maybe. Well, let's also write his name in pencil. But you do have Emilio Agard coming back. You have Kairos Gaines, Jameer Washington. You have Scott coming back. And then in this class, you're adding Elams and Dunmore. So you have 4 guys coming back because I'm not going to count Latimer. And you have 2 freshmen in this class. I think you need 2 corners minimum. And ideally, I think you need 3. I think you need 3 corners. And one of them's got to be kind of a dude. That's going to be really hard to find too. That's going to be very expensive. Yeah, the Grogan says 3. That's where I'm at. I think you need 3 corners. And one of them has to be kind of a more physical, bigger guy. Because you look at Emilio Agard's not the biggest guy. Now, Skanes actually has some size. Washington does too. So maybe I'm actually talking myself out of that. But I think you need 3, and I think one of them has to be a legit guy. So give me 3 corners. Safeties. How many safeties do you guys think we need? Preston Zachman could come back. So, again, another player, write his name in pencil. But you have Matt Young, trainer. You have Raphael Dunn, who's kind of a jumbo. I would call him like a linebacker or safety. He's going to be interesting. And then you have the 2 freshmen from last year, Luke Emmerich, Grant Dean, and you're bringing in Watts this year. So you have 5 guys coming back with experience, 2 freshmen last year cycle. I think you need 1, especially if Zachman comes back. If Zachman comes back, you get 1 safety, you're good. If Zachman leaves, I think you get 2. I think maybe even then 1, because I like Grant and Emmerich. Again, part of this is you have to develop the young players you have, and they do have young pieces at safety. So I'm going to say 1. It is a little dependent on if Zachman leaves or comes back. If he leaves, I'm going to say you need 2. If he comes back, I think you need 1. And then at kicker, you need a kicker. You need 1, maybe 2, maybe 3. You need a kicker. You got to go into next season with a reliable place kicker. Slim says if Zachman's back, we need 2. So Slim's not as high in the safety spot as I am. I get that. Brian says we need 1 hybrid. Evil Badger says Latimer's gone with his brother to West Virginia. Yeah, there's no part of me that is sharpieing in the Latimer name onto this depth chart next year. I agree. All right, let's take a second here. Let's talk about the new recruit that the Badgers signed, plus a couple portal losses. And a really interesting fact with this new recruit that I actually had to go look up. The first time I've ever done that with a recruit for this reason. That's next, Locked On Badgers. First, a quick second. It is the holiday season. Gift giving can be tough. It can be hard, not for me because I crush it, but for other people, it can be a really difficult chore. And I get that. And I'm here to help you. The holidays are officially here, which means gift hunting is underway. And if you want something meaningful, you want something personal, you want something guaranteed to get a reaction, or frames is the gift that delivers every time. This is something I've used for my family. It's not just something you wrap. It's a way to share memories. It's a way to share the family moments that you want to give to everybody, because Aura isn't your average picture frame. You preload the frame with photos before giving it. When they plug it in, the memories are already there. No apps to figure out, no setup headaches, just instant smiles. This is for grandparents, newlyweds, parents, cousins, uncles, anybody who loves getting photos. And it's endless photos of your family, of what you want to put on there. And it really just 30-second videos if you want to add those, and you can do it all through the Aura app. Add personalized messages into the frame so that a gift feels meaningful the moment it's opened up. It is absolutely awesome. It's a great gift. Absolutely awesome gift. For unlimited time, save on the perfect gift by visiting auraframes.com to get $35 off Aura's best-selling Carver mat frames, named #1 by Wirecutter by using promo code college at checkout. That's AURAFrames.com, promo code college. The deal is exclusive to listeners, and the frames do sell out fast. So order yours now to get in time for the holidays. Support the show by mentioning us at checkout. Terms and conditions do apply. All right, let's get back into this, guys. We got a new commit. We got a new safety. The Badgers landed a new safety. Watching some film on him, Kah'ni Watts commits to the Badgers, 6'1", 170-pound safety out of Iowa Colony, Texas. Iowa Colony, Texas. That is such an interesting city name. I had to look it up. I had to actually look up the history of Iowa Colony, Texas to figure out how there's a city in the state of Texas named Iowa Colony. But first, Kah'ni Watts. I'm going to get into Iowa Colony in a second. 6'1", 170-pound, 3-star safety. They flipped him from Houston. Also had an offer from Utah. Any safety that has a Utah offer, that's a good sign. Also had a Wyoming offer. Good size. So watching huddle film of Watts, you see good size. You see him come up and hit against the run. I think my biggest question with him, he's got a great frame. He's 6'2". He's got long levers, right? So he can really get in a zone. He can really affect a lot of space around him. He's got good spatial awareness on zone drops. He's able to go, break on balls, but also, break passes up, going over the top of his head. He does a really good job kind of in space as a pass coverage, a pass defender. And again, that size allows him to come up, be physical. He's effective in run support. I just don't know if he has the deep speed. So with Watts, I don't know if this is just more of a kind of an in the box safety, or if this is a guy who's going to impact the passing game, if he's going to be able to play cover one, if he's going to be able to go sideline to sideline. To me, that's a spot the Badgers have struggled finding. That kind of high safety who can play sideline to sideline, who can defend deep 9 routes. I think Watts might be, I don't know for sure, but he kind of has the feel to me of another maybe in the box type safety. And that's fine. You need those too. And this class desperately needed a safety. So Kah'ni Watts jumps on board. Good pickup. Nice job by the staff flipping him late. But I'm just not 100% sure on the speed or not. AB says Luke Emmerich was a murderer on huddle. Yeah, he's a big athlete for sure. He's a big athlete for sure. Slim says Watts is faster than Zachman was at age 18. He can develop. Yeah, I'd have to go back and look at Zachman's film at 18. I don't know. And you could be right on that. And he definitely can develop. I think it's a really good job by the staff adding a body at a spot they needed. They needed depth at safety. Quite frankly, they needed a couple bodies at safety this class. I think they needed another corner, another linebacker, another defensive lineman. So, yeah, I like to pick up. It's a late one, but the frame is projectable. There's physical tools here. So this is a player getting late that you can at least still see the physical tools, see the frame, and say, okay, yeah, I can see the path for success with him. Preston says, late night Badgers, let's go. Love it. All right. Just so everyone knows, because this tripped me up and it brought me down a rabbit hole. Kah'ni Watts from Colony, Iowa, Texas. Colony, Iowa was actually formed. It was a literal colony of Iowers. So a group of people in the Midwest in Iowa sent farmers down to the spot in Texas, part of the Immigration Land Company of Des Moines, Iowa. 2 Iowans involved in the project named the settlement Iowa Colony to reflect that it was a new farming community of people coming down from Iowa. It was like a pipeline, right? We always talk about recruiting pipelines. Texas had a little city pipeline into Iowa. It was absolutely, I just kept going deeper and deeper into this rabbit hole. It got a post office, Iowa Colony, Texas, got a post office in 1919. 1920, rice farming took off there, became a really big deal for it. And that was a big deal for about 2 decades in Iowa Colony. It wasn't directly on a railroad, but it was close enough to the Gulf where some of that rice farming could get exported out. And by 1948, they had 27 people. I'm not sure if they were all from Iowa or not at that point, but a really interesting little story of a town name that I couldn't help but look up. So that is the show. Appreciate everybody so much, as always, for tuning in. If I go through all my portal needs, here's the last thing I'll do here. Again, I was doing my bare minimum in each spot. So I said they need 2 safeties, 3 corners. That's 5. No inside linebackers for me. I said they need an edge. That's 6. 2 defensive linemen. That's 8. I did 3 offensive linemen. That's 11. I did 3 receivers. That's 14. No tight ends, 2 running backs. That's 16. And I did 2 quarterbacks. That's 18. So right now, I have us down for 18 minimum, and that's without people leaving. This is like as this depth chart kind of looks now. If you were to lose, Kyon Barry Johnson is gone, right? Kyon Barry Johnson, a smaller slot receiver. I was never really a big fan of his. He's too small, and he's explosive. He's got good ball skills, but he's too small. And then Remington Moss is the other one that left. I liked him. I liked Remington Moss. Good kid. First of all, good kid. Wishing him success. He had a big frame. He felt like kind of a safety who could play in the box, but also cover bigger tight ends. But Remington Moss in the portal, Kyon Barry Johnson in the portal, they will absolutely not be the last. So again, I have us at 18 portal needs, and that's before people leave. I assume another 10 to 15 people are going to hit the portal. So ultimately, this portal class is going to have to be 25 to 30, right? I think and I think that might be conservative. So on Wisconsin, appreciate you guys so much. Thank you for being a part of the show and the community, and we will definitely talk a lot more tomorrow, next week. I think we have Jake Kokorowski coming up next week. I think John McNamara is coming up. There's a lot of really good guests coming up as always on Wisconsin, and thank you guys so much for tuning into a late night edition of Locked On Badgers.